The second presentation is entitled, as you can see, the proof is in the glare on the privacy risk posed by eyeglasses and video calls. That would be presented by Abdul Serwadda from Texas Tech University. Go ahead, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Abdul Serwadda, and my talk today is entitled "The Proof is in the Glare, the Privacy Risk Posed by Eyeglasses and Video Calls." So the proof is not in the pudding this time. This is joint work with Hassan Wasswa, who is not with us today. Okay, let's get uptight. 1 second. So video conferencing is a part of our lives today. We have it at school, we have it at work, elsewhere at office. It's become part of life. This trend was already growing prior to COVID, but COVID just kind of exploded the whole thing. And so video has become another constant piece of our lives. And projections indicate that we are going to see more of video conferencing, as you can see from the graph below. The curvature is kind of exponential, like, so you can expect things to grow even more, reach more communities. Okay, so what's the problem with video conferencing being part of our life? Now, it turns out that increased dependence on videos comes with a fair share of privacy risks. If you've been watching the news lately, for the past couple of years, you will have seen some very embarrassing incidents on Zoom calls that I can't even dare speak out about in details here. As video increasingly enters our lives, we can expect more such incidents to happen. So what that tells us is that the security community needs to maybe take a deep look at privacy issues of video that might not have been necessarily critical issues back then, before video was everywhere. But now that video conferencing is going to be everywhere, we need to look at, again, every little piece of threat vector, and where possible, we try to come up with solutions, so this new video movement doesn't end up ending people's lives or careers. Okay, which brings me to the big story for today. What is our paper about? We asked the question at the top there: could eyeglasses worn during a video call leak private information within the confines of the user's private space? So I'll paint a scenario here for you. Imagine a company meeting where the managers are addressing employees, maybe 50, 100 or more, about company policies and activities in a gigantic Zoom call. Some of the employees are so bored with all these company meetings, and they decide to tune out. They are registered as present, they logged into the Zoom call, but they are not really watching anything remotely close to Zoom. They are on Facebook, minimize the Zoom window. So you are registered as present, but watch your Facebook or your Twitter and all that throughout the meeting, and when the meeting is done, everyone is happy. Everyone attended the meeting. So of course, such employee who does such a thing is cheating the system, but within the Zoom framework, we expect him to successfully cheat the system, not to be found out. Okay. So we pose the question of, if such an employee is putting on eyeglasses, could a person who records this video and performs analytics, machine learning on on images, reflections in these glasses, be able to learn that this person was gaming the system. If such an attack is possible, then this is a major privacy threat that needs to be looked into, because, you know, the one scenario I painted is the company could find out this guy was cheating through Zoom, but it could even be worse. Maybe in these private windows that this person is viewing, there is a valuable information he's looking at. Maybe they're entering credit card numbers during the Zoom call. Could this leak out? That's a question that we look at in this paper. And we specifically focus on the case of anti-glare glasses. So the victim, in this case, that bad guy is trying to cheat the system. I guess bad guys can also be victims, is wearing anti-glare glasses. So we assume this type of glasses, we use this type of glasses for two primary reasons. Number one, they are designed to minimize reflections. So by making our study based on these glasses, we are kind of analyzing the worst case scenario of this line of attack. Call it a lower bound of the performance of this line of attack, if you may. And that's one reason why we focus on these glasses. Then another reason is anti-glare glasses come with advertise all sorts of features for cutting out frequencies of light that are dangerous to your eyes. So a lot of computer people who spend their whole life or day on a computer, they tend to use, you know, different variants of such glasses because of the promise of they provide on protecting your eyes. So by using this type of glass, we can assume that we are using a family of glasses that is fairly used frequently. And so we capture a threat that would apply to sizable population out there, the world. So the figure summarizes our threat model. You can see three people in a Zoom call. One of them has bad intentions as the attacker, and the victim is wearing glasses. And then the other one is just the participant is a random other person on the Zoom call. So the attacker will pin the victim's screen so it can be large enough, and they will record it. They will record it, and they will, with the idea to go and crop out the glasses, you know, whatever reflection they're in, train machine learning models, and launch different types of attacks. So we focus on three families of attacks here. One is the two-class window inference problem. That is, if the manager is sharing information about company performance and so on, and this guy has decided to tune into Twitter, we are posing the question, is this guy watching the manager's shared content or is he not? You know, so it's a kind of a two-class problem. Are you watching this screen or are you not watching this screen? So, and the primary screen there is whatever the main person is sharing that is expected everyone to be watching, and then the other class is everything else that is not that. Then the other line of attack we look at is the multi-class window inference. In this case, the attacker might want to push his luck a little more, and rather than just determining whether you are watching this screen or not, he might be interested in the question of which screen are you watching. Definitely a much more complex problem, but for our purposes, we constrain it to just about 20 classes, which is the most frequently visited web pages, mostly social networking types of applications. So we focus on those, and 20 of those, and one additional one, which is the unknown class, because, you know, someone could be viewing one of those 20 or some other random thing, which we cluster all everything else into a class. So we do an n+1 class problem there. And we want to infer the page they're viewing using reflection in the glasses. Then the third target is the text inference. This time we are not only classifying the screen to determine whether it is Twitter or Facebook, but we are trying to check if one could even determine text typed. Where, can one classify character typed on the screen? That's the third problem. So at the bottom there, we give some ideas of people who might be interested in this attack, government spying on the on citizens, or or people from foreign governments which might be hostile to their own. So all they have to do there, they know the giant Zoom session where a target is involved, and they'll come in, and if this target wears glasses, they will pay attention to that screen, that person's window, pin it, and perform also some analytics. But there are also some ideas there you can see of people who might be interested in launching this attack. So now the idea of videos and information leaking, we are not the first. The general domain of information leaking from videos, a lot of people have done this. So I'll briefly place our research in the context of the past work. We have two clusters of past work there that we identified. One was those papers which looked at video privacy issues, but without looking into light reflections at all. Sabra et al., a recent paper, they looked at reactions of the upper arms. So someone is typing, and the video is recording them as they are typing. The webcam can look at the shoulders and upper arms, but certainly not the fingers of the keyboard. And they asked the question of whether, movements of the upper arms and could give some information on what someone is typing. And the argument there is that, the way your arms move kind of predict which region of the keyboard you are tapping, and hence what keys you might be typing. And they showcase some scenarios where the line of attack is fairly successful. Kagan et al. Focused on demographic information leakage in Zoom videos posted online, and they could determine all sorts of things from usernames to age to sex, and they correlated it with social media data, and they showed a serious leak there of privacy. And Campagno focused on acoustics, someone typing and analyzing the audio, typing in a Skype call. They use the Skype call in particular as their case study. So that body of research, it kind of emphasizes the importance of our own research, and how much interest is there in privacy of video-related privacy, but clearly different from us. So the second body with side channels exploiting light reflection is much closer to our work, but with significant differences also. Ragram's paper in 2013, they get a telescope and a high resolution camera and focus on the virtual keyboard of a smartphone while someone is typing. They particularly target the pop-out feature where someone taps a key and it enlarges. It used to be common, especially in earlier phones, but that's the 2013 paper, so no wonder they focus on that. Su et al. Also kind of similar scenario, but they also come up with some solutions for cases where the line of sight might not be great. And Barkes et al., this time they are focusing on computer screen and even reflecting surfaces in the neighborhood, such as spoons and cups. And they're using this telescope and powerful camera and, trying to make sense of what is in there. Then Barkes et al. Has another paper where the reflecting surface is irregular, including shuts and walls. So the second cluster, kind of similar to ours in the sense that they're also analyzing reflections. But there are several significant differences that I are bulleted there on the right-hand side of the slide. One, is our reflecting surface, which, as I already pointed out, is an anti-glare glass whose very DNA is to minimize reflections. So none of the scenarios these people do has such a surface which has been built to minimize reflections. So then, of course, the tools used, they use high-tech equipment, telescopes, and DSLR cameras, $1,000 plus. Ours is, we want to capture the regular video conferencing person. So we're using a basic $50 webcam that you can buy off the streets. And then the target, all of them focus on text. They try to classify character. But for us, we also introduced the question of just classifying a screen, a whole screen. We want to know whether you've been on Twitter all day when the manager was talking about company policy. So then the overarching scenario that these people do is similar to shoulder surfing technology, cybersecurity, where someone comes over your shoulder and zooms in on whatever they want. Our attack doesn't have the luxury of shoulder surfing. We just get whatever the victim's webcam is able to capture. That's all. So we are not able to come in with a telescope and go to the left and go to the right and go 1 meter closer, 1 meter farther. So our attack scenario is really different from all of those by virtue of that. Okay, so what do our experiments look like? We started with a little preliminary experiment before going fully fledged because we were not sure whether this has any promise. Because when you look at those glasses, you can see some kind of image, but to the plain eye, it's very not intelligible. So we wanted to do a mini experiment, just see, might there be promise in this before we can do a fully fledged study. So we had 3 cases where we had 2 victims who viewed exactly the same page, and then who viewed 2 pages with significant differences in visual appearance, and then those who viewed with pages with minimal difference in visual appearance. So we want to, in this preliminary experiment, we want to do a simple distance measure of some sort and see whether case 1 depicts a solid level of similarity and case 2 depicts very much lower similarity. If such a thing happens, then we see that, yeah, this information might be there. And hopefully we can do a more robust classification process. So these are results from our preliminary experiment. We used the so-called structure similarity index metric, a measure of similarity between images. And you see there the blue cluster was cases where people viewed the same content. At the other extreme, the orange is where they viewed totally different content, and the green is in between. So this preliminary result, you know, just 2 simple features, the mean of the SSIM and the skewness of the SSIM. We just picked 2 features and looked at them in a 2-dimensional space, and they already depict promise. So then we started thinking that if we are to extract a solid catalog of features and train a machine learning classifiers, we might be onto something here. So from this preliminary work, we went into the fully fledged experiment where participants used Zoom, the host shared content, which were PowerPoint slides, which is typically what people share anyway, this type of calls. And like I said earlier, the victims were anti-glare glasses, and they kept the webcam on throughout the call. Then they viewed the shared content in some experiments, but then they also viewed other random pages in other experiments because we want to compare this. We used a light which had the functionality to vary intensity and color temperature. So this will allow us to do sensitivity analysis in our study, and the attacker pins the user's screen, like I mentioned earlier, And on the victim side, we vary all sorts of environmental variables, brightness, resolution, distance, direction, blah, 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 blah. And that's what the light looks like that we use. We bought it off of Amazon, and we can tune things. We made sure that that light was the only thing in the room. So so basically we did the experiments at night. We don't want light coming in from outside. So we want to precisely control the intensity and the color temperature using just this light. So this allows for a allows to fine tune our experiment, although of course one could argue that, okay, maybe this light might not necessarily map to 100% realistic case, but it gave us a way to control everything to the dot. And so we captured all these videos and all sorts of cases of, the slight changes in distance from the webcam, changes in these variables that I talked about with the light, and also changes in the display itself, the laptop. And we did the 2-class problem that I mentioned earlier, the multi-class problem also, which was n+1 classes, where n is 20. Then we also did the digit inference, where we just constrained this to the digits 0 to 9. So we would have one victim would type 1 digit at a time, and then we would record a short sequence there over a couple of minutes, and then another digit. And so we want to classify using the image. The classification engine is your vanilla CNN. We didn't do any innovation with regard to the neural network. 5 convolution layers, 5 fully connected, softmax output, ReLU everywhere else. All the standard stuff, really. Okay, so this is what the results look like. I see I'm running out of time. I didn't realize I moved that slow. Okay, let me summarize real quick. So this is the binary classification problem, where we pose the question of, is this guy watching the general manager's PowerPoint slides, or is he watching something else? And this being a 2-class problem, the benchmark would be 50%, which is a random guess. So you can see there that when for different test cases, one of them were text only slides, graphics only, text and graphics combined, and the color of text and the font sizes. We test all those cases separately, and you see that the attack is performing pretty well on that 2-class problem. Then we have the multi-class problem also, which again, for our 20 classes, we get good numbers also. So there is a mean that I report there, 95.06. Sensitivity analysis on the different variables I showed in the previous slide captures kind of similar patterns like we saw in this previous slide. So nothing so new. Report an average number there, point to the accuracy of the attack. Now, text inference attack, though, where someone types a digit and we try to classify it, that one didn't do so well. I know that the figure on the slide there might make it look like it did so well, but those font sizes are so large, where we started to get some promising numbers. A website will not have such font sizes if someone is entering their social security number or anything. Those are so large. Even PowerPoint typically would go that large, and you can see when we go as low as 30, we are close. We tend to edge towards random. In this case, random is 10% because it's a 10-class problem. So it concluded that the text inference attack in realistic scenarios would not be feasible. Okay, so overall conclusion from the study, we see that yes, an attacker could guess what could infer what you are watching. What's at the main screen. And we tested this across various configurations. From the attack still works. And because text inference was largely ineffective. And so the conclusion, ultimate conclusion from the study will then be that perhaps these guys who are building this video conferencing software, they need to look into reflections in eyeglasses as a potential privacy threat vector, and maybe think about either blurring some of that information or you know, any kind of way to mess up that whatever is seen in the glass. Already there's a lot of the background. They eventually realize that the user's background, it can be a source of privacy leakage, and now you have options to kind of hide it or blur it or blah, blah, blah. So our paper makes the case for glasses also being specifically looked at, just like they looked at background, and then they come up with some fix to kind of mess up whatever is seen in the reflection there. Thank you very much, and open to questions.
Good, intriguing work, Abdul. Just a quick question. Would you be able to share how big was the data you used in your work? Like how much was the size?
Okay, so we, like when we do the 20 websites, for each one, we have actually up to about 100 different configurations for each of the 20. Because we have one website, and then we change the brightness of our light, we change the color temperature, we change the distance of the viewer. We play about with all those variables, and for each website we have for each of the 20. We have a kind of 100+ different variations of the same thing.
Cool. Thank you. That sounds good. Thanks.
All right. Well,
Okay, are there any questions online?
I had a quick question.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. How about normal non-anti-glare glasses? Would the numbers, for example, the text numbers, would they go up, the accuracies? Do they make a big difference?
yeah, so we didn't test those. But by our assessment, what we did is kind of the worst case scenario as far as the attacker is concerned.
Yes.
So we expect our numbers will be a lower bound, and maybe the text inference attack might get somewhere reasonable.
Yeah.
Maybe. I have seen glasses. I think there are certain glasses where you literally see the whole reflection very clear, even when you are just watching a Zoom call. So if they are anti-glare, yeah, there might be certain glasses which would give a whole lot of reflection that you might get decent numbers on the text inference problem.
Okay, maybe we can also get one question in person or two to finish it. Okay, I have one question. So my question is, when we go to the results of text inference, we see that when the font size is getting smaller, the accuracy drops and significantly. So of course, in real world scenarios, websites do not have large font sizes, so it's like really small and really hard to basically detect. But what do you think can be like used to, from the attacker side actually, to enhance that and be able to get some like sensitive confidential data? Let's say a user actually logs in to his Facebook account or social network or anything like that, and then at that time he's still like in the Zoom call. So What do you think about that?
So basically, you assume it's still anti-glare glasses,
Yeah.
and you want some thoughts on how the attacker might, I mean, still within the context of those glasses, how they might push up things a little bit. I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe if they employ certain techniques to do some kind of very accurately interpolate pixels.
Yeah, so what I was personally thinking of is certain computer vision techniques like image smoothing, these techniques that can actually help get those details in those data. So maybe that would be a really interesting thing to look forward in your future work.
That's correct. That's correct. Certainly would be interesting to try and enhance the images using all sorts of tools available already and see how well it does.
Okay.
This was kind of our, first preliminary investigation, and excuse me, we didn't go that deep.
Okay, yeah. So thank you.
Right.
Thank you, Abdul, for your presentation.